So I saw some wire and I made a teacup. And I liked the way
the wire? Sorry,
it was just on the table over there. I thought,
I was just saying, you didn't even bring your own material.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say
that stuff. It is 2013.
Flying by the
Poetic
seat.
license.
I did backdate it as well. You may notice.
It was here before. You were here before.
Why not? Why not?
Well, the idea of making a teacup from wire obviously was an idea that you had at some point.
Yeah, and I like the way that it seems to grow out of the pile of wire.
Yeah. Yes.
I like that very
Like
much.
it's sprouting up.
Wasn't there a little mouse on there before? Was that?
There was.
Probably the dogs have that.
I thought about putting the mouse, making a teacup for the mouse,
Oh yes.
and then
you could put the mouse in the teacup.
I just like that idea more, so I got rid of the mouse. But it's great just to turn up somewhere and have to use what's around and have to think on your feet, which is fun. Can be a bit stressful. But I like playing, and I find if I sit down with and I think I'm going to work and I'm going to make something, and it tends to stifle all that playful creativity. But if I just go somewhere and think I'm going to use whatever's here and see what happens, then good things come from it. Yeah, I like. It does consume a lot of wire, I have to say. I'll snip it off and give it back to you.
That's all right, don't worry about that. No. It was swapped to me by Stephen Kieran, who's was going to come down from Norfolk, but he's Bury St Edmunds he lives. Yes. But he can't be here today, and it really should. I think it's blackened from a fire. It really should have meth poured over it and be on fire. But we haven't done that today, so we're just exhibiting it. And he lives near the Fens, and he makes surreal objects. And we have a lot of friends who are surrealists, or who are interested in surreal art. And so if one could look at it through those eyes of imagining, I don't know, there were the multiple meanings and dreams and the way you let your unconscious into art making that you get through the surrealist tradition, I think, comes out in his making. Because it's probably found materials, I suspect, probably found in the Fens, and he's put them together and created his Fenland fish, which is, I think, displayed particularly attractively today upon a piece of stump that we found in the park.
They are called thus because it's kind of an old I think mainly African tradition to make these carved wooden sculptures with nails stuck in them. They're kind of done for sort of, magical purposes. I don't think it's necessarily voodoo. I think it's something else, but they're supposed to have some kind of effect or significance on something. I can't quite remember what, but it might be worth. That's it. I can't remember. I should have looked that up again before I presented these, but
you can feel that it means something anyway. I think the putting.
Well,
of
I
pins. Andrew and I were talking about that the other day.
One of the reasons that I use the salt dough is because it's actually got a very flesh-like quality. And when you're kind of kneading it, it does feel a little bit fleshy. And then actually sticking it wasn't as kind of much of a ritual as I would have liked it to be, sticking the pins and nails in, because it's actually quite hard when it's cooked. And I thought about cooking with them in, but I didn't have enough time. I left myself not enough time to experiment. So hence why they're works in progress, because, a more kind of finished version of these may arise, but it was more of a case of drilling and then putting and gluing. But I was kind of interested in the sort of, the traditional sculpture is very hard, the nails are hard, but whereas these, even once they're painted and varnished and everything, they look very soft. And I don't know, I've kind of trying to remember what my blurb says, but
you stuck nails in them, so it's a bit like they are being used for some sort of magic control.
Although these are actually sewing needles because I thought it'd be nice because it's a smaller, more delicate one. I kind of wanted to, use a smaller thing. But those actually, I kind of got injured doing that. So maybe there's some significance to that. But I've actually been like experimenting with salt dough for a while because it's considered, a plaything, something children use. And I'm kind of into the idea of trying to bring sort of, neglected or thought lowly of materials into the art world. I do a lot of kind of performance live art stuff, and I've done an interaction with salt dough where I asked people to remake me. It was really interesting because people just get so excited about the dough, they just make egg and chips. But as you were saying about yours, when I saw it, I thought there was a kind of connection there with like the therapeutic quality and kneading this kind of stuff is there. But it's something I plan to refine, and I really want to make like huge ones, take all the shells out the oven, because I love making ceramics, which is actually one of the things we were talking about, because we've never actually met in person before till today.
Very
And just finding kilns is so hard. So I don't have a studio right now, so again it's something I can do in my house. Kind of it's nice to try and find ways around things just to kind of experiment and do something different. But I think baking temperature, that is a tough one. That's a tough one because I've got them out and they do a strange thing sometimes. If you make very thick ones, they slightly sweat. You think they're done and you take them out and they begin to sweat, and again that's very weirdly anthropo kind of morphic of them. But it's hours on a very low temperature, kind of trying to remember to turn the gas off before you go to bed. So these are dangerous in every way. You could hurt yourself on them, and you could gas yourself out, so don't try it at home. Because they're not, nothing's going to happen to them if you do. But I've got a very strange portrait bust I made of myself out of this.
They're pretty hard.
Yeah. And the portrait bust I made of myself's got my actual hair on it. It's kind of creepy.
I like that.
Very creepy. I thought about bringing that to...
If you want to have the original statement, she stands on her own, but she's also part of a story. But the other mermaids are completely broken, so I didn't bring them today. But she stands on her own as well. She has two lives in my life. Her first life was that she was part of an installation that I did last year, and the inspiration for the installation I did last year was a cutting from the paper about a photographer called Rebecca Hocking, who is a wildlife photographer, and she was really moved by and really upset by the amount of rubbish that was in this river in the Philippines, and including plastic bags, and the amount of wildlife that died and suffocated from it. And so that's another story. But I made a series of mermaids, and one was dead with a suffocate from a plastic bag. Anyway, this is Yamaja, who she had her name for part of the installation. She is goddess of the sea, and she's Brazilian. And if anyone wants to sort of has any knowledge, because you said folk art, Jude. So I did folk art. You're Brazilian, you know her. Yeah. And from my research, maybe you could correct me. Every year, New Year's Eve in Rio Beach, people throw things out to Yamanja.
It's true, but it's everywhere.
Everywhere, everywhere. But this particular story was from absolutely. So if you want to, and she's got wire inside and papier-mâché, and then she's paper pulped, dyed paper pulp, and then when she was drying, I put her on a hot radiator, and all the salt in the paper pulp was surfacing. And there's a name to it when builders make buildings, and there's something, I can't remember what it's called, but the salt comes out or something. I don't know, something like that. Anyone a builder? And but anyway, so today is the first day of the rest of our lives, everybody. So if you want to throw money into the pond to your manja,
well.
make a wish, all right?
And we do a lot of stories. I've done it for 9 years. Of news stories from all over the world, and I find that the kind of shapes and stories of what I see on the video, what I have seen for years, just has gone into my imagination, you know, sitting there and watching stories. And I tend to improvise my art, and things come out of the texture and seeing things inside it and working with it. And I often find that stories relating to the news come transformed, and just stories about people and people moving in landscapes. This one came out, I've called it Where Now Traveller, and I see it as being seeing refugees or nomads. I'm not sure whether people are at home or the figures, the characters are at home moving through these landscapes and at home moving, or whether they're looking for somewhere new. They're certainly looking for the next place that they're all going to. They're moving through landscape, and either they're at home with the travelling, or they're going to find somewhere different, maybe different levels of anxiety, memories of places where they have lived and families, and thinking about where they're going to. And of course it's just a metaphor for where we all are in life anyway. We're always sort of moving along, looking for new places to feel at home, remembering where we did feel at home, whether we're physically moving or not. So it's got that, but there's definitely that feeling of the Reuters news stories, because the refugees and migrants is something we do see a lot. And it's a triptych, and please feel free to walk around this piece, because there's 3 different panels. Oh, you can sit on anything. You've broken the old shard from last year that's completely dead in the watershed.
Yes, the beacon was quite fun.
And earlier this year, myself and Miyuki Kasahara, we had an exhibition at St John on Bethnal Green in the Belfry, which was called The Tower. And it was based on ideas of the tower in our backgrounds, in the stories of our backgrounds. And I used the story of the Pendle Witches, which is close to us. And Miyuki used a story of a woman in the medieval age, I think it was. Was it medieval or early modern? Anyway, and in Mists of Time, long ago, in Tokyo, there was a girl, and she saw her lover, the man she loved, and he came to put out the fires of Tokyo, because Tokyo started burning, and because of how restrictive society was, she thought the only way she could see him again was by setting Tokyo on fire. So she did that, and she felt ashamed when she saw all the people perishing from the fire that she'd set. So she went up, apparently on a upper tower, rang a bell, and to save the people, to raise the warning. And she was killed. She was burnt, I think, for her for having set the city on fire, for having done the arson. She was executed. She never saw her lover again, and it was very tragic. And the story was made into a poem, and our art is really about, or this exhibition's art was really, the underlying theme was about the tower and how it is a symbol of romance, but it's a symbol of romance that's sort of misleading in a way. In actual fact, beneath these it has a symbol of romance in this story. There is real oppression of women trying to articulate themselves. And the Pendle Witches is something similar, because there were these women living in the lowest parts of society, not looked after so well. Hello, Sarah Doyle. Hello, Jacob. Yeah, so yeah, they started to make up stories so everybody could listen to them, and one part of the story was that they lived in a place called Malkin Tower, which apparently was a cottage, but everybody thought, ooh, Malkin Tower, it's all full of spooky witches, and they were going to kill us with their potions and things. But actually it was just a bunch of people trying to sort of tell stories so that people would listen to them for once, I think. And they all ended up executed, or many people were. The trials just ended in ridiculous executions by people pretending that they were all very scientific and sensible, but they were all believing in these silly fairy tales that they were encouraging. So yes, that's fragments from that exhibition. We destroyed the towers at the end.
You just make something on the spot. And I knew that I wanted to find a tree to wrap it round, and I thought I'd find a living tree, but then there was this here, and I stitched it on. As I stitched it today, I pricked my finger and bled. So that was kind of, because it feels like it's about fairy tales, and I've called it No Longer because a friend of mine from when I was a teenager who I wasn't really in contact with died this week, which was a real shock. So it's no longer because no longer alive, no longer breathing. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Yeah, your hands particularly, because you have that lovely nail varnish.
Feels a bit of matching. Oh, it feels a bit like the skin of a peach. You know, the kind of slightly furry skin of a peach. You know, you get that kind of, it's always got like hairs on it.
Yeah.
So my name is Paula. This piece is called Caçando Caranguejo, which in Portuguese, caçando caranguejo, in English would be like hunting crabs. It's this piece is about memory, about how memory is fragile, how people are fragile as well, and how memory that we have from people is fragile. Because this is like a remake, maybe, of a short story that my father should tell for me and my sister, that when he was young, he used to hunt crabs, like have a big gun and shoot on crabs, and my little sister would laugh about it and say like, oh no, you're lying, and he, no, I'm saying it's true. And then my father passed away, so like, and then I was trying to think how to rebuild all this memory about him, or about even people that sometimes, especially in London, that you meet and then they leave, and this kind of really fragile memory. So because of that, the material is really important, because that is made with paper, and always when you rebuild it, it's never the same and always collapse, and you not can remake it. So, and how is memory as well, you never can make it again. You're always adding things or deleting things. So yeah, so the piece is about that. Yeah.
So we're not part of the memory because we're standing there.
Yeah, now you're part. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Did you bring it in pieces?
I can show it to you afterwards. I just rolled A3 paper, like sulfite paper, and just put inside of each other, and then yes.
Perfect. Such a perfect space for it, actually. I have to say.
I think you should stay.
Yeah.
Permanent.
So how long did it take you to when you put in the whole, so in your mind you had a sketch of how it was going to be?
It's like, because I made this piece 2 years ago, but to really make this I took like 4 months.
Right.
Searching like material, like I always want to do in paper, and then on the time I was in the on the art course, and then a tutor came, oh, this is impossible what you're doing. And then I changed the material. I just grabbed some found materials and made more or less a structure. You know, it was good because then I thought about just a structure, but then I just put in rubbish because no, it's not, because the material for me had a meaning. It wasn't just like a material, whatever. So then I did it and did it again, and then I built it. So, and then always when I have the opportunity to create in a different place. This is the first time that I do like outside. So I always say yes, and then I do it, you know, just to see how it works in different places. And of course I always have like, because the structure is a bit more or less the same, it's like 5 points that holds.
Sure.
Yeah, but this I think was quite interesting because it was the first sculpture that I did. It was quite thin, because the other one that I did was quite thick, was like a rolled paper like this. It was quite thick and loads of rolled papers. But maybe because I'm in the bottom has like some sticks, so it's quite strong. Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
put
the other-
sticks in the hollow.
Yes,
Oh, so
yes.
it worked. That's why it works so well.
Yeah,
on the ground.
yes, because if it doesn't have, if it doesn't have just spreads and
Yeah.
fall over, yes.
So when you come, you have the shape in mind as you put it together. in
The
this
first
space?
time, no, I didn't.
Okay.
These I had more or less just the points because I need to hold it, so I have the points. But then I start to touch. Okay, maybe here need one more, and then one more here and one more, and then I started to build. Yes.
So what time did you get here to set up your?
No, I think it took just 2 hours for
Really?
this one. Yes.
Wow. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Oh, this is more, it was part like I forgot mangrove tree like from yes. So yeah, I forgot to say that. Quite important.
Often it just blows in, causes a terrible mess, and the main thing to do is to stay completely clear, calm, and unhurt, I'd say, by anything outside. So make sure that we brush everything outside.